Hey everyone, so this is a computer case I've been actually really looking forward to seeing. Be Quiet 500 case, the new case that was actually released towards the end of summer this year in 2019, and actually the smallest case so far from Be Quiet themselves. And one big reason I was actually really looking forward to this is because I actually was looking forward to actually using it in a build. And in this case, I'm actually going to be using it for, yet again, another family member's build, and I'm going to be putting that together very soon. But definitely want to do a little review on this particular case. And actually, the picture doesn't really do it justice. This case is actually quite smaller than other cases I've actually had my hands on from Be Quiet, particularly the 600 case that I actually just had recently in the video. I'm doing the last build that I sent off to a really close friend of mine out in Montana. And just from visual, unfortunately, I don't have the case here with me anymore, obviously. Just from a quick visual, I can already see this case is definitely smaller. Not as long, that's for sure. Maybe the height, probably a little bit shorter just because the feet down here, if you can kind of see this, I'll try to pick them up a little bit. Just move the filter there for a second. The feet on the 600 case is definitely makes this case a little bit taller, so just something to keep in mind as well too. If you have any clearance issues with some of the former cases from Be Quiet, you actually see that. Obviously, right next door is the 900 case, which, okay, well, we're not even gonna compare that. That is a behemoth, basically, compared to this. But let me go ahead and get this thing open. And same screw design, obviously, but it does have these, well, actually, somewhat little small knobs there, so the tempered glass, as I mentioned a couple of times, one of my pet peeves when it comes to tempered glass now is if you, once you take these screws off, will this thing actually just fall off? And we're just going to take the last one off right now. And you can see it doesn't fall off. Obviously, will it fall open? Well, that's always a possibility. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off, and we'll go ahead and take a look inside. And there's the tempered glass case. A lot of reflection there, sorry. A little bit of a border thing over here, which is, I guess, kind of nice. And here's the case itself looking inside. One thing that is notably missing here are hard drive trays that we've actually had sticking out and were actually removable. They are actually not here, and if you actually did want to put mechanical hard drives, there's actually trays just below down here. Let's get a little bit closer. Right down here in this area over here, there's going to be some hard drive trays. And over here we also have a PSU shroud, which is actually pretty nice. So, you know, those cables sticking out of the PSU are completely hidden. And that's actually one big rant I have about the Be Quiet 600 case. There's no PSU shroud. I did actually see a few people online who actually make customized PSU shrouds. I think they range anywhere between $70 to $90. And I think they sell them on eBay or other websites. Pretty, if you do have a 600 case and this is your big rant, just something to keep in mind that people actually do make some customized stuff for that particular model. And it's actually still a pretty good case, and even though it's been out for quite some time, they still haven't, they still manufacture it and they still sell them in online retailers and whatnot, including a bunch of stores. So my lighting isn't perfect here, but I'm going to go ahead and shine some light and show you some other stuff inside this case. This computer case actually comes with two fans. I believe these are the Pure Wings fans, so not the really quiet silent wing fans. Fans actually have the little rubbers over here on each side. Just put a little bit of a flashlight over here just to bring a little bit more light. And there's one 140 here, and of course another 140 in the rear as well too. Go ahead and give it a spin. But you definitely do have the option to put another one, at least one more over here. You can probably actually even be able to sneak in, if you actually use 120 fans, you can probably even sneak in three of them. 1, 2, 3 basically. I always still question whether you can actually put three 140s. I mean, that's always a possibility. I mean, you can always go ahead and give it a shot, but I don't think this case is actually made for that particular fan setup. I'm going to go ahead and take off the side panel here on the back. Show you what's there. I actually do think there's a couple of things that the case came with that's actually hidden back there, and there they are. Put this down. And over here we have some Velcro straps, some wire management. Other Be Quiet cases actually do have these little slits here that you can actually slip the Velcro straps that are included, but they actually already put them in here already for you. Over here, once I take this tie wrap off, very interesting piece of hardware here, which actually has to do with the top of the case, which I'll show you in just a moment. But over here, we actually have a dust filter. By the way, I forgot to mention that just like the 600 case, the Be Quiet 500 case actually does not have a front fan filter. And I'll go ahead and take the front bezel off just to show you that. You'll see here, this is basically the fan filter is actually made for the top of the case, and I'll just show you that in just a moment. So here you can get a look here. Two little slots here for SSD, some more little slots here for other wire management and whatnot. Little accessories case here. Go ahead and take that out. And you can actually see the drive trays right over here for hard drives. I will be putting a physical hard drive in here, mechanical hard drive, whichever you want to call it, and one SSD, which is not going to be an SSD that is going to go here. It's basically going to be an M2 drive. So I'll be more than happy to show you that later on once this build gets complete. And let's go ahead and I'm going to just be funny and flip this case on its side. I'm going to readjust the camera a little bit. So this dust filter here is actually interchangeable with this plain top cover over here, and I'll go ahead and show you how that works out. So over here we actually do have a plain top cover, a couple little vent holes over here, which actually I do appreciate, a couple of little vent holes here for exhaust or intake. And over here we actually do have little slides here that actually look like handles. So I'm just going to put my finger over here, give it a little bit of force. You can already see that it actually moves, and you just got to slide the finger here underneath and just pull the whole thing off. And underneath we can actually see a couple of magnets right across, and I believe one more over here. And also some noise dampening material right here, which is really great. So definitely if you have this on, you know, obviously it'll just keep all the sound inside these cases, which are anyway quiet anyway because of the fans. Over here we can see there's an area to put a couple of fans here, and also some water cooling rads as well too. You see over the space here. Seems like there's enough space here to actually put two 140 millimeter fans. And I'm trying to do, just basically doing measurement of my fans over here. Possibly three 120s. I don't think 3 120s actually fit here. But here's where I wanted to demonstrate to you. So we're going to take this fan filter here. If you actually did have a couple of fans here sucking air in or blowing air out, you would actually put this in. You can already see this is already sticking. And there we go. Now we have, instead of a solid, we have a better intake, exhaust, air friendly fan filter over here, which is actually really nice. Of course, you can always have the option to just leave it off completely. Oh, this almost fell off. And if we just take a look at the fan filter, there's magnets on all four sides. I don't think it really matters which way you put it. Fits just nicely. So really wonderful feature they have here. I actually do like having that particular option. As opposed, some manufacturers like to make a case where one version's solid and one version is filter. Pretty interesting view. Almost looks like a mosquito net. With the front panel off, you can actually see over here, like I said before, there is no fan filter in the front, like other computer cases that I've actually mentioned before. But I do plan to, just like the 600 case that I've put together just not long ago, I'm going to be putting in one of these little custom fan filters over here. And if I actually do put another fan, well, you can just put another one as well too. I may actually move this fan a little bit down so I can give some cooling to the actual hard drives. So that's definitely an option. Here's the front cover. Pretty interesting design. It's not all just solid. It gives us a little bit of a feel to it, which is pretty interesting. This case actually does come in a silver color or a gunmetal color, I believe, and of course in the beige white color as well too. So obviously my family member this is intended for, he actually does have a dark colored desk, so this will actually pretty go well with the theme. Just going to go ahead and just put this back on. And this front cover is actually a little interesting to take off. You can actually see if I can get to these little like grooves here that seem to hold the cover down. So it's not the usual these little things that you have to squeeze from the inside holding it down. Let me just put this right back on just to demonstrate to you. And I'm gonna obviously give a little bit of force on each side. And there we go. Not so hard, pretty easy. And one other little thing I should mention, even though there is no front fan filter here, there is actually a filter for the power supply. And I'm just gonna yank that out right underneath, and you can see that right over here. Very similar feature than other cases. You just basically install it through the bottom and it slides right in and out. So obviously you just need to position it correctly, otherwise the sucker's not going to go back in. And there we go. I will warn you though, I've actually picked up this case a few times, and that fan filter, you immediately feel it, and sometimes without accident, if you don't grip the bottom of the case, by accident you can actually move the fan filter and the thing could just slip out of your hand. So just keep that in mind too. Sometimes these fan filters get a little bit out of position, so you can tell right now it's a little bit out of position. It's sticking its nose out like a tongue actually. Looking in the front here again, just your basic interior setup. One thing I definitely will point out is that this PSU shroud cover over here is actually not removable. It's pretty much solid with the back plate of the entire case. So in order to install your PSU, and I'm sure this is something that will please many people, you just have to take this bracket off, attach your PSU unit to this, and then slide the entire thing back in. And I actually prefer that method on the 900 case that I did a review on as well too. One big frown I have about it is how the PSU has the most unusual, I believe a little bit over-engineered placement way and how to screw it down, and I think this would have just made it so much easier. I guess there are the reasons why they didn't do that, but you'll be happy to know that this basically just follows the old rule, and that's it, basically how you install a PSU. A couple of slots over here. You do have the option to put the video card in the sideways position if you prefer to show it off, and obviously with the tempered glass that's definitely a possibility and would actually look pretty nice. Since this case was a little small, even the regular ATX board will pretty much cover almost the entire area of the back area of this case. And we do actually have some wire management access holes here. So you can basically sneak all those cables to the back and keep them in the back with those little Velcro strips. So obviously they're not all over the place and just dangling everywhere. Cables from the power supply will obviously sneak underneath here from the bottom. And we'll just basically access the back, so you don't actually have to worry about any of that stuff either. So that's basically it. Pretty simple layout over here. I'm actually really looking forward to tossing some parts into this. It's going to be a wonderful build. And since this obviously there's less area in here, so you know, just keep that in mind. If you're going to have some CPU and video card that's going to actually produce a lot of heat, I definitely would recommend another intake fan, or possibly even if you're not using water cooling, you can definitely add another 140 fan up here and basically use it as another area for exhaust. So wonderful case so far. I really like the pretty sturdy build, you know, all metal around here. The front cover is plastic with a really nice feel to it. Some access vent holes on the sides. These seem like a good inch, and definitely a good way to suck in the air and whatnot on this other side as well too. And oh, almost forgot to mention as well too. Let me take the flashlight out of the way. Here are your power buttons. Sorry about that, just had a little issue with the tripod there. And here are your power buttons. Unfortunately, no USB 3C Type C connection, but being the price point of this case, it ranges between 75 to 90, depending which one you get, and unfortunately even what color. This actually is pretty good deal, and you can expect there to be a couple of little features that definitely would appear on more premium cases that are actually not here. 2 USB 3 ports, your power button, and mic and headphone plug-in. So that's basically it. Just gonna go ahead and toss some parts into this wonderful little beauty here and see how quiet it actually is. Of course, there's your name with the little plastic over it so it doesn't scratch. Well, here she is, all built and set up. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on right over here. This is actually the same motherboard I did use in the previous build for a friend of mine that I sent out to Montana. Same B450 board from MSI. So you'll see the colors there are still in the, the rainbow spiral circulation color there. So very amazing case, pretty straightforward to put in. It did actually have that little area, which is pretty popular now in computer cases, where you put the board in. There's that one little area there that just holds the board down, as opposed to you having to put a little bit of force and against the back plate to actually get the first and second screw inside the board. So overall, really amazing case. I did actually want to point out a few things. Immediately off the back, I just want to go ahead and show you. It's no harm, I guess, tipping this over a little bit. There's your power LED button, the power button basically, but you'll notice besides no reset button, there is actually no hard drive indicator light as well too. So you will not see when the hard drive is actually doing its job, in this case the SSD, because there is actually no light. So just an FYI, obviously many cases have actually not been coming with them, but I actually do prefer personally, I do prefer the hard drive light indicator. So just an FYI in case you want to know. I did actually use a cheapy card right now just because the video card I do have in mind, it hasn't arrived yet, so I'm just using basically a cheapy card. I'm gonna go ahead and flip this over so you can see the back. And let's go ahead and remove the back cover, which is pretty easy. And you'll see basically just how clean it is actually back here. This one cable that goes from the power supply to the board for CPU power, I actually thought was actually going to be just stuck here and not be able to reach, but turns out it did. So we just got one basically big spine of wires back here and the Velcro that's already pre-installed. Other Be Quiet cases do come with these Velcros, but you just have to install them yourself. The clearance space here is actually pretty well, not particularly an inch, just a little less. But even the power supply to the main motherboard cable, the 24-pin cable, actually does have more than enough room to actually fit over here. And you actually see that I actually do have it curved out on the top here, where the access point is right over here. If you can actually see the hole, pretty big enough hole to actually, if I actually flip this over, you'll see pretty well that I actually do have the main board cable curved in an angle over here, and people have actually been building computers for some time can definitely inform you, and of course they know how hard it is to actually turn that cable like that. So pretty good amount of clearance space, and this access area here to get the wires all to the back to look nice and clean. Pretty nice area, and I'm absolutely fond of that. I don't have any SATA cables here installed at the moment, but I will be putting one in when I do have a mechanical hard drive in here, just trying to work out whether I'm going to put a 2 or 4 terabyte one in there to actually work along with the SSD that's already installed right there. So the only cables that you'll see here are just basically the front panel USB 3, the fans, and of course the motherboard cable. And let me just demonstrate to you. Putting the cover, I'm only applying just a little bit of force here, and you'll see it literally just goes on pretty easy. One other thing I wanted to mention let's just go ahead and tip this computer over again, very lightly this time, because the other time it almost slid out of my hands. No danger in doing that, unless of course you have a mechanical hard drive, just be very careful doing that. One thing I did want to show you here, go ahead and adjust the camera. This removable cover panel over here on the top, I find it nice and pretty useful. Just a little FYI, if you are actually in the habit of occasionally, accidentally even, putting some stuff on top of your computer, which occasionally I am too, especially if your computer is actually on the floor and you tend to put some, back then you can even put like some CD spindles or books even, that this cover may actually slide and stuff on top could just basically fall off and whatnot. Let me just demonstrate to you. I'm going to hold this case here. Actually, no, let's just try to do it this way. So you see, I basically didn't apply too much force for this to actually come off, and it also applies for the dust cover. So just keep that in mind if you actually accidentally do put some stuff on top. You have the habit of doing that, and one day this happens. So other than that, you know, this will literally not fall off unless you do that, but it will probably shift every now and then. So just an FYI, that may just occasionally cause a little accident unintentionally. Here we are again, just taking a closer look. I'm going to go ahead and remove my mic and just move it really inside just so you can actually hear how quiet this actually is. And remember, this is with the tempered glass panel off, so even with that on, you probably won't hear anything. You probably do hear just a little bit of a breeze. So there she is on one other very amazing case from Be Quiet. Actually, I think this is actually a pretty good value at its price point, underneath $100. Even a little more if you decide not to get the tempered glass. One little goof I think Be Quiet does have is that depending which color you pick, the price might be an additional $5 or $10. This actually does come in a grayish gunmetal kind of color and also a beige white kind of color. You can actually see the front panel here isn't all solid. It's got this pretty interesting feel and pattern to it, which I'll be honest, kind of actually makes it a little more attractive. And just want to mention one more time while we got this going over here, just be really careful when handling this case, especially when it's actually full like it is now. When you actually do grip your fingers underneath the case, you're actually going to be gripping this dust panel, and you wouldn't want to get a grip on this and have it slide out, and again, another unintentional accident. But besides that and the top cover issue that I mentioned before, sorry about that. Really amazing case once again. I'll probably be picking up another one of these for one of my little side computers that's still using a very old case where the power supply is actually still in the topper position, if you actually remember cases being like that and not being down here. The PSU shroud does make this case more and more clean, and obviously despite the small size, you do have the options to put an additional fan up here, as well as some extra cooling and rads and fans on the top as well too. If you enjoyed this video, got any questions or comments, by all means, let me know. If you have this case and you have a pretty experience of your own to tell, by all means, let me know. Go ahead and shoot a like and subscribe if you really want to see some more of this. I'm sorry if I actually did skip over the build itself, but don't worry. I got a couple of builds coming up over the next few weeks, and one of them is probably going to be an upgrade, so I'll definitely be more than happy to put those on there. So absolutely, for sure. All right. Thanks again for watching, guys, and take care.